is a platform where would-be entrepreneurs, collectors, connoisseurs, admirers, individuals can participate in physical assets that are rare, unique, and curated from sources that are otherwise unavailable to mere mortals, irrespective of your location. They're fully verified as well, completely traceable via blockchain technology. So with me is co-founder Steve Arian to explain more about Paiverse. And tell me, let's start with you. Tell me about you, and then we'll delve into the company a little bit.
Yeah, no, I appreciate the opportunity to be here, Jane. So thank you so much. So just a little bit about me and my background. So I've been a practicing attorney here in the U.S. on the regulatory side for about 20 years now. In addition to my day job, I also am lucky enough to be an adjunct professor where I teach 2 graduate MBA and law courses at the University of Connecticut School of Business. So they are in ethics and legal compliance issues and financial risk management, and ethics and compliance in global corporations. So that's a little bit about my background, and I'm just excited to be able to tell you a little bit more about the genesis of Paiverse and how we became a startup.
Yeah, it sounds like a very interesting company. And this is one of those applications for blockchain technology that you hear so much about, where you can actually trace the authenticity of something, correct? So explain Paiverse.
Yeah, that's correct. And so Paiverse is, in its essence, it's an Ethereum-based blockchain marketplace where we've been able to partner with some very affluent brands in the marketplace. And the concept behind it is we're taking a physical product, such as a rare bottle of whiskey or a collectible like a watch, think of a piece of art or your classic car, you name it. We attach and create a non-fungible token, which acts as the digital title to that asset. People are then able to trade that asset frictionless on the platform anywhere in the world. And then if at the time when you're ready to actually enjoy that asset, you can burn that. And we, along with our brand partners, will ship that asset to your location.
Okay. And if you're like me, I mean, you understand the potential of blockchain technology, but we've seen FTX and Silvergate Capital and even Signature Bank and some of these things that have really tarnished, I think, the crypto brand lately. I mean, what's your perception of that? What can we learn from those things?
Yeah, and I think that's an unfortunate circumstance, and quite frankly, the timing of what's happening in the crypto space, especially if you're a startup like we are, given the fact that we're still in the crypto winter, as people like to call it. So from that perspective, it's quite a challenge. The climate's very challenging, as you just pointed out, with what's happened with SVB, most recently with Signature Bank as well. The good news is that even though there was probably poor risk management taking place from an investment side, the depositors have been protected. But one of the concerns is that now we have this moral hazard issue, which we had back in the financial crisis. So that's a little bit troubling as well to the markets. From the investor side, the good news is that they're protected. So that's the positive outcome from the recent trends. But unfortunately, I think what it also shows is that there's some uncertainty in the market. And so investors are unsure on crypto models themselves, exchanges to trade on. We saw that with FTX, and also the actors that are behind these companies. So the founders and the management teams, case in point, Sam Bankman-Fried. So there's kind of several lessons that we need to learn from this. And just from my perspective on the founder's side, being a founder myself of Paiverse, you want to be very mindful that you're not putting all your eggs in one basket. So you want to spread your risk around, who your partners are, who you're engaged with, right? That's from a common sense perspective, whether it's deposits or where you're raising your capital from. Then from the investor's side, I think the investors really need to be mindful and do their due diligence on the companies and who they're engaging with, including the founders and their executive management teams. So for example, what's their experience level? What's their background? What's their experience in running a company in the past? And then from the VC capital raising side, again, do your due diligence on the founders, on the executive management team. Make sure there's board level oversight of that management team. So we've seen in some of these transactions that have happened in the news space from the crypto side and also on the financial side, that there's just not proper board level oversight of the management team. And so at the end of the day, we believe accountability is key, whether it's in the crypto markets or in the financial traditional financial sectors. So the board absolutely plays a key role in their duty of care to exercise oversight on compliance and risk management.
Yeah, and I feel like regulation was kind of missing through all these things as well. And as long as I've been doing blockchain interviews, which has been 6 years now, that I think, we've talked about regulation and really there's nothing concrete there. So I think that's a missing piece that could have prevented some of these things.
Well, some people say that there's a little bit of challenges out in the space because there's regulatory uncertainty. But if you talk to the SEC, which is one of the regulatory agencies that oversees the crypto markets, to them, the rules are pretty clear. There's no uncertainty. So if you follow their news releases, the commissioner's speeches, digital assets, in their view, is a security. Yeah. And firms that engage in traditional cryptocurrencies or exchange traded products, they're intermediaries. And so within the SEC's purview, you have to be registered, whether you're a broker dealer or an exchange. And so that means they want you to be compliant with the SEC's Securities and Exchange Act from 1933, the Securities Act of 33, the Securities Exchange Act from 34, the Investment Company and Advisors Act of 1940. So that's on the SEC side. So in their mind, there's no uncertainty. There's regulation in place already back from the 30s and 40s.
Okay.
On the CFTC side, you've got the Commodities Exchange Act that goes back to 1936. So in their view, their rules are clear as well. So they have crypto products that they oversee, including Bitcoin, and they've identified those digital currencies as commodities. So people claim that there's uncertainty in the market, but in the regulator's mind, there isn't. But is there? Of course there is, right? Who's competing here? Is it the SEC? Is it a security that you're trading in? Or is it the CFTC and a commodity you're trading in? So the challenge that we have as a startup, as a founder in the crypto sector these days, the challenge we have is, are these rules and regulations that have been promulgated from the 30s and 40s, almost 90 years ago, do they still carry regulatory oversight? Do they make sense in the 21st century of the technology that's changing? So the challenge we have is, what do we do moving forward? Now, there are several bills in Congress, and they're bipartisan in the House and Senate that are kind of waiting in the wings to see how this all plays out.
Mm-hmm. So how do you think the regulatory landscape will change or look in 5 years? Will we have a little bit more clarity on some of these things, you think?
Yeah, I think it's a little bit of a challenge. I think the trend right now is that we're seeing in the regulatory sector, especially the SEC and the CFTC, which are the two primary regulators, is they're doing regulations to enforce. So you have passiveness happening at the congressional level. So what's happening is a lot of the enforcement actions are forcing small startups to either go out of business or to restrict the business models, and which is also forcing a lot of crypto companies to move outside the U.S. jurisdiction to go to jurisdictions like the Bahamas, which we saw with FTX and a lot of other market participants. And now we see trends moving to the Middle East, such as Dubai, which is actually where we're registered, because of this regulatory uncertainty. I was being a little bit sarcastic when I said that, there wasn't any uncertainty. There's absolutely uncertainty. And so it'll be interesting to see how this plays out. We see in the news right now the SEC case against Ripple Labs and the XRP initial coin offering. That hasn't been decided yet. So I think the industry is still waiting to see what happens in the Ripple case. Is it going to get settled? Is the court's going to make a judicial determination to help guide the marketplace? So I think it's going to be a little bit of a challenge going forward. But again, going back to the regulatory perspective, the agencies believe these laws that were passed almost 90 years ago still apply today. And the challenge is that the case, or do we need something new? Because about every 10 years or so, we saw it in 2000s with Sarbanes-Oxley, we saw it in 2010 with Dodd-Frank, the market reacts and it's not proactive. And so I hope we're not in another 10-year cycle where we need to be reactive again.
Right. Now, how does Paiverse address these regulatory uncertainties in the industry?
Yeah, so it's a little bit of a challenge for us. Again, we talked about these regulatory uncertainties, but in our view, our platform is based on non-fungible tokens. and blockchain technology. So we believe that blockchain is the future of retail. So in other words, anything that's sold at retail can be sold on the blockchain. And why would you want to do that? Couple of reasons. So number one, for the brand partner who wants to list their product in this marketplace that has security of the blockchain, number one, it's not a one and done sales scenario. In other words, you've cut the middlemen out and you get a royalty. Every time that product gets sold down the line in the secondary market on a blockchain, you're getting a royalty. Whereas your traditional retail model, you don't have that. Again, it's also frictionless. So at Paiverse and other platforms, you're able to remove borders. So if I want to trade in the US with someone who has an NFT physical asset in Australia or Hong Kong, I don't have to go to Australia or Hong Kong to purchase that product. I can trade it on the blockchain through Paiverse or other marketplace platforms. And then when I'm ready to take physical possession of it, I can burn that token and have that shipped to me to the extent all the regulatory requirements are made. You have your KYC, you don't have any sanctions, restrictions involved. It's secure. That's what the whole purpose of cryptography is. You have provenance because it's coming from the brand itself. It's not like an eBay format where anybody can go sell a product. It's actually coming from the brand. So you've got accountability. And most importantly, in a lot of these alternative asset classes, you have price transparency, which you may not have in some marketplaces. So for example, whiskey cask investing. Good luck trying to find price transparency and liquidity in that market. But on a platform, you can see who's owned the cask, who, what they paid for, and who's going to purchase it next.
So tell me about your team. I mean, there's always, you hear about the developers and all these people that help build the company. So tell me about the team and how did you choose who's on the team?
No, it's a great question. So as we know, no company can really survive unless they can execute. And you have to have a vision to execute. And so we were very methodical and purposeful in picking the team members on our team. So we wanted individuals that had different backgrounds. And so we were looking for the trading sector, because obviously when you're dealing with cryptocurrencies and cryptography and blockchain technology, you want to have people with trading backgrounds. You want to have people that have understanding of the systems, the architecture, development, marketing, sales. Obviously, from our perspective as being an attorney, and my co-founder is also a compliance officer, we wanted to make sure that we had compliance and legal built in as well. And so it was very important for us to obviously have the right diversified team. And what does that mean when I say diversified? So diversification of subject matter expertise and also location. Where are you located? So we want to make sure we have a diverse cultural background. So for thought initiatives. And so, for example, the Paiverse team, I'm based in the US. My co-founder is based in Dubai in the Middle East. Our chief disruption officer is based in Hong Kong. Our head of sales is in the UK. Our operations team is in India. We have our chief security officer in Germany. So we're a very diverse, globalized platform. And in the post-COVID year, we actually don't need to all be in one office. So that's a nice thing to have as well, that we can be located globally, but still get together and engage like we are today.
Yeah. Well, I tell you, that's one thing about blockchain is it's so global and all over the world. And I'm just finding it's kind of a new way of doing business. It's so fascinating. So Steve, thank you so much for sharing Paiverse and the story of that, and best of luck with you.
Appreciate the time, and thank you so much for having me.
Thank you.